welcome to the BoshNRoll channel. If you want to support my daily Eternal Magic offerings while getting amazing perks like the BoshNRoll Discord community, have me play your deck on the channel, or listen sideboard guides before tournaments, check out the Patreon or YouTube membership program. This channel is possible because of these amazing sponsors. Check them out, all their links are in the video description. As always, thanks for being here. Let's go play some Magic. Welcome back to the BoshNRoll channel. Today I'm playing Vintage, and this is Aggro Shops. This deck is brought to you by a confluence of factors, one of which being I am recording this on August 23rd, and there will be a ban announcement on August 26th that I don't want to put any videos that are affected by onto the channel, but I can't possibly know that from the past. I think this deck is probably safe. There have been some calls to restrict Urza Saga in Vintage. I don't think that's going to happen, but if it does, whatever. But this is mostly safe. The other factor is I am trying to get myself out of town into a tournament this weekend. I have a road trip ahead of me right after I finish this video, and I think this deck will lend itself to pretty straightforward quick games. What we've got here is an aggro deck, a genuine aggro deck in Magic's most broken format. If you're coming from smaller formats, aggro probably looks to you like Goblin Guide or some one-drop backed by Lightning Bolt. And that stuff just does not hold up in Vintage. However, we have a bunch of undercosted, overstatted creatures and ways to get them just over the finish line. Sphere of Resistance, Thorn of Amethyst, Trinisphere. These things make your opponent's spells cost more, which means it takes them longer to get out from behind your creatures that are bashing them. Patchwork Automaton comes with Ward, just kind of build your own sphere attached to this buddy. And these creatures all, I called them undercosted and overstated. They aren't those things unless you account for Mishra's Workshop, which is what the deck is named after. Taps for 3, spend this only to cast artifacts. Guess what? The entire deck is artifacts. Tap for 3, this is just Black Lotus you get to use every turn, and you get to play 4 of them, in addition to actual Black Lotus. Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, Mana Vault. This deck doesn't have any of the problems that other decks have where the colorless mana might not always be useful because every card is just colorless. So if we talk about Patchwork Automaton in terms of costing 0 or -1 mana, like if I tap Mishra's Workshop, I get this thing, and then I still have a mana floating. If we talk about Foundry Inspector as a 1 mana 3/2, we talk about Nettlecyst as a 1 mana XX. We talk about Lodestone Golem as a 2 mana 5/3 that also taxes your opponent. Now it starts to make sense how these are undercosted, overstated threats. The skills needed to play this deck are sequencing and predicting what your opponent might be doing. And what I mean by sequencing is if you cast Vexing Bauble first to turn off their interaction, then realize you have 2 Moxen in your hand, that's a very bad sequence. That's a very obviously bad sequence. A more clever sequence is something like, if my opening hand has Mishra's Workshop and Tolarian Academy in it, and I have a couple of Moxen and like 2 spells to cast, maybe I'll lead on Workshop, cast the second best spell, or I'll lead on the spell that will make it harder for them to fight back. And if it just resolves, then I know they can't fight back. If it doesn't resolve, I've turned this card from Sphere of Resistance into Hymn to Tarok because they had to force of will it. And then on the following turn, I might tap my Workshop to cast another thing before I even play the Tolarian Academy, and then my opponent has to make a decision thinking, okay, this is the spell for the turn, how do I want to respond to it? And then suddenly, blammo, another 5 mana and another spell for the turn. Like, those are the kind of sneaky little things. It's all really condensed. We're not going to make a lot of decisions in these games, but the decisions we make are going to be important. By predicting and understanding the metagame and what your opponent's on, Phyrexian Revoker, sometimes you name something proactively, you just think, what could get my opponent out of this? Black Lotus, Mana Crypt. I'll name something like that. Do you lead on Sphere of Resistance, or do you play Chalice on 1? Do you Chalice on 0, 1, or 2? All of these things are necessary to really understand the metagame, and I'm going to do my best to do that. I am not an Aggro Shops player, but I do play against Aggro Shops, and I know what I don't want them to do a lot of the time. I'm going to try to reverse engineer that. Stonecoil Serpent. Do you just play this as a 1/1 with your leftover Mishra's Workshop mana after you cast a Patchwork Automaton? Or do you save it till it's a 4/4? All of these things are the things we're going to be trying to navigate here. And we get to do combat math. which many vintage players don't bother with, and it is a skill gap in the format, even among the highest level players. I could tell some embarrassing stories about people you've heard of, but I'm not going to do that here today. Other vintage decks don't always have creatures, so sometimes combat math is just turning your creature sideways and watching your opponent die, and sometimes it is actually, do I re-equip Nettle Cyst? Do I cast a bigger Stone Coil Serpent? Is it worth trading off Lodestone Golem if it makes their spells cheaper, but I get to get their big threat off the board? Like, there is some cool stuff there that's probably going to happen in the league. Okay, that's a lot of setup for a deck as mostly straightforward as Aggro Shops. Let's do it. I'm on the play in round 1. I have 4 mana in my opening hand, and before I decide if I'm going to keep it, we're going to have that sequencing conversation. Obviously, I have to play Vexing Bauble after I play my Crypt and Sapphire. That matters. If I play Foundry Inspector before I play Vexing Bauble, then Bauble costs 0, but they do have a chance to force my Foundry Inspector. If I play Patchwork Automaton before I do anything else, like if I just go Crypt Automaton, then this gets triggers off of Sapphire Bauble, or I'd probably play Sphere at that point. I'm definitely going to keep, but again, like this is the sequencing puzzle that I was talking about. Your mulligan and your turn 1 are frequently the biggest things you're going to do in this deck, and they set the tone for the whole game. I think what I want to do is play Foundry Inspector, then go land Patchwork Automaton, Vexing Bauble, and I'll Sphere of Resistance next turn, or like Foundry Inspector cancels out Sphere of Resistance for me, which is nice. I could go Bauble and Sphere this turn, but then Patchwork Automaton is in my hand with no artifacts to make it bigger. I'm definitely casting Mana Crypt. I'll just start there. If I play Patches, I could go Artifact, Land, Sphere. I think I'm going to go Foundry Inspector into Vexing Bauble and Sphere of Resistance, and I'm just going to let Patchwork Automaton be small. I do have to pay attention to the fact that Vexing Bauble, if I reduce things to 0, this then counters them. Okay. We gave up on Patches to put as many lock pieces in play as possible. By the way, Patchwork Automaton, I will be calling Patches O'Houlihan for the entire duration of the league. If you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge a ward trigger. Okay, we're playing against an Ancient Tomb, so it's some sort of Shop's Mirror, which makes a lot of what I've done a lot worse. And my Sphere also turns off my Vexing Bauble. Good job, me. That's just good magic. Good fundamental magic there. I didn't even think about that or talk about that, but it is obviously true. Okay. Urza Saga. I could play that. I can deploy Patches O'Houlihan, an attack for 3, and I have a Saga active and another one in the bank. Yeah, if I had just not played Sphere of Resistance, it actually would have denied more mana than Vexing Bauble does. But Bauble is making my Saga constructs bigger. Okay, opponent has Ancient Tomb. They passed on 6 mana. What is going on over there? Lost my Crypt Flip. Drew Black Lotus. Just going to keep cranking out constructs and try to murder my opponent, I guess. Soul Ring, Vexing Bauble. And it's really Soul Ring is the only thing here. Black Lotus costs 0. It costs 1, and then it costs less. I think I'm just going to attack. They didn't block. I will make another construct. I could have killed them if I cast the Black Lotus. This is what I'm talking about. These little decisions, you have to stop and do combat math. But we did still win. Yeah, that game lasted 3 turns, and I feel like I made 4 mistakes in it. Like there's a lot going on here. A lot more than it may seem. All right, we're in some sort of Ancient Tomb mirror. I suspect Vexing Bauble's not very good. Chalice of the Void on the draw is probably not very good either. 2 Worm Coils and Shadow Spear makes sense to me. Pithing Needle makes sense to me. I feel like I want another card out. This Unlicensed Hearse may or may not do anything. There are Shops decks that rely on Crucible of Worlds for the lock, so I could see Hearse being good there. Trinisphere could be bad. All the lock pieces could be bad, but we're really not really gassed up for a mirror match here. These cards are pretty mid. They could also be Jewel Shops. 6 mana that can't cast a spell. It could happen. I think this is a mulligan. I wish I had thought about the fact they might be Jewel Shops before I finish sideboarding. Maybe you bring in Mindbreak Trap on the draw just because you can. Okay, so if I Sphere, I don't get to cast any more cards. Revokers, yeah, I'm going to mulligan this. That's the wrong Mishra land. Wait, this is the correct Mishra land. We have 3, 4, 5, 6. Turn 1 Wormcoil Engine. I'm going to keep this and bottom Foundry Inspector. We'll see how this goes. Tomb, Emerald, Pearl, and a pass. Weird. Weird. Okay. I can just cast Sphere of Resistance. I could just shove Wormcoil into play and hope it's a mirror match. If it is Jewel Shops, I'm going to really wish this Sphere was in play, though. I could play Urza Saga as my land for turn if I'm just going to cast Sphere off of Crypt and Emerald. Or I could get this Workshop in the bank to power out the Wormcoil. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can cast Wormcoil through Sphere next turn, even if I lead on Urza Saga, but then I don't get to make constructs. Or I get one construct on the way out. It still seems worth investing in. I'm going to play Crypt, so I'm not ramming into Mindbreak Trap. I don't know if they're going to have that, but I can play around it and still play my Emerald. Okay. I've done that. We'll see what happens. F6 from here. Just riding the wave. Ooh, they are Jewel Shops. Had to bolt in that land, which gives them 5 mana. If they have a 1 ring to cast, they could have done it last turn. Unless they were playing around Mindbreak Trap, which plays into Sphere. And they just passed back. Okay. I won the flip. Sick. Okay, I think maybe I just cast Stonecoil Serpent here and leave up the Urza Saga activation. I can Stonecoil for 3, and this results in more power and toughness on the board than casting Wormcoil does. And now that I know this matchup's not about life total, this makes more sense. PO for 2 in the end step. This is a desperate play, because those Moxen are going to cost mana on the way back down. And it took 5 damage to pick up those 2 Moxen that are going to cost more life to put back into play. And if they get over the hump here, if they find a removal for the Sphere, they might just win and it doesn't matter. But that is a big sign of weakness. The Pearl's back, cost a mana. Emerald's back, cost a mana. They have 4 mana available, 1 ring costs 5. I don't even have anything worth copying with Phyrexian Metamorph, which is a line that I didn't consider, but I did accidentally play correctly with the Wormcoil engine, because if they copy this, it's a 0/0 and it dies. They could copy Mana Crypt, spend a turn doing that, but that costs 2 life off the Ancient Tomb. Oh, and 2 life off the Phyrexian, because that card costs 5 right now. I've got 8 damage here. Lodestone Golem, the low G. I am happy to see that. And Vexing Bauble, as we determined the hard way, doesn't work with Sphere of Resistance in play. I could Pithing Needle the 1 ring. I could get Soul Ring and just get more mana, but I don't think I need more mana. I'm just going to Pithing Needle the 1 ring, just in case. That is a card in their deck. And then I'll spend 5 mana on a Lodestone Golem and hope for a lock. I just got to hit twice here. Yeah, they're spending mana. Force of Will, pitching Force of Will. They did have some interaction. Cost them a life and a spell. I will put you to 4 with Ancient Tomb in play as a mana source. And we'll see if they can navigate this on thin life points. Workshop of your own, that helps. Coveted Jewel, dangerous, but off we go. Spent a mana on Black Lotus. 7 in the pool. Or 7 accessible. 3 in the pool. Metamorph that they can't afford to Phyrexian in, so they have to spend the full 5 mana on that. And they could certainly chain their way out of this. They're doing the thing, but my mana denial compounded by them being at 2, which means they can't play an Ancient Tomb, can't Phyrexian mana anything, is pretty nice. Soul Ring, Mox Opal. They have exactly enough to Paradoxical Outcome, then they can't play any of the cards back out, though. They could play a 1 ring and get protection for the turn. Alright, they're still metamorphing, like the Power Rangers. Down to 3 mana. They could cast a 2-drop here. They've made their land. Ancestral Recall. 1 mana left. I don't know what they could do here. For a while, like a Time Walk resets all this million mana and they're probably fine, but now they can't cast Time Walk. Mana Crypt's in play. They could cast another 1-drop. Mana Vault. Okay, cool. Sometimes all it takes is 1 Sphere of Resistance and you get to beat all of this. Aggro Shops, let's go. This video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, the easiest way to build Magic decks online. Moxfield supports over 30 formats, including Legacy and everything else you'll see on this channel. There's multiple customizations so you can interact with your deck how you want. Views such as text, grid, or stacks, and groupings like type, subtype, color, color identity, even artist. The site offers light mode, dark mode, and so much more. However you want to see your deck, Moxfield can provide it for you. Follow my Moxfield to keep up with the channel and what I'm playing in paper. I'll see you there. I'm on the draw in round 2. I have Mana Crypt Wasteland, that's 3 mana. That casts Foundry Inspector, and then that can Stone Coil for 1, or I could get Revoker plus Wasteland. I'd really like to get this Lodestone Golem into play. There are 19 lands in the deck, plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana artifacts. That's almost half of the deck is mana. Any mana artifact, and I'm cooking here, I'll keep. Maybe this is a mulligan. Maybe this is me being a blue wizard and just wanting more cards in hand, and Ancient Tomb Gamer would know to mulligan this. But there are 26 cards out of 53 in my deck that make this hand good. And I can do stuff on turn 1 even without that. Ooh, Ancient Tomb Pass. Let's go. Another Revoker. Now we're in kind of an interesting spot. I could Wasteland them and then Mana Crypt, Revoker, name. And I don't really want to name Black Lotus because that's what I'm doing. And I could just play out Revokers for a while. I am going to Wasteland though. See if we could both play stupid Magic together. Phyrexian Revoker. I could name the One Ring if I think this is Jewel Shops. I could name Black Lotus if I just want to cut out their best draw. But that's also my best draw. They didn't lead on it. I'll name the One Ring and just hope that this is what they're doing. I have another Revoker. I have more information next turn. There was a time in Vintage's history that reasonable people were arguing that Phyrexian Invoker should be restricted, which seems silly now. Okay, they are White Initiative, which means I'm going to name Chrome Mox with my next one. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Sit down and shut up. Phyrexian Revoker. Chrome Mox is not in my deck, but they play 4 of them. And now I have that information to work with. And we will just see if Wastelanding them twice and putting 4 power into play is enough to win the game. Fingers crossed. This deck does play Solitude if they need to. Emergency takes some pressure off. Cavern of Souls on Cleric. That is White Plume Adventurer. Sphere of Resistance. Let's go! I think this is more important than adding 2 more power to the board, and I don't think it's close. I could have played Stone Coil Serpent there. The opponent is clearly struggling. A Wasteland. Like I'd give you a target for that. Lost a Crypt Flip. 1 out of 4 is not bad. Well, I give you a target for that. I am going to attack first. Just in case they do something like spend mana to Solitude, which I don't think matters that much. Foundry Inspector, get in. I don't think they could afford to Wasteland me here. They're just dead in 2 hits, and they've made it clear they need every piece of mana they have. Another Cavern. White Plume Adventure still costs 1 more than this. If I draw mana this turn, Lodestone Golem's going to unlock the game. Okay, this costs 2, which means Stone Coil costs less as well. Oh wait, Lodestone Golem does cost 4 right now because of Foundry Inspector. That's how this deck is built. Good job, me. I figured it out. And they're just conceding. They don't even care what spell I have. They're just any spell is good enough here. I love Vintage players. Okay, we have some White Initiative in the chat. I think Mindbreak Trap is worth it on the draw here because their best draws are like Mox Creature. Shadow Spear, I like Trample. I could see arguments for Null Rod. It might seem weird to see this many Null Rods in a deck that has this many artifacts, but this deck has 4 Ancient Tombs, 4 Mishra Workshops as well, and at some point you don't need to activate artifacts anymore and it's worth more to hurt your opponent's mana. Like if I knew my opponent was on Jewel Shops last round, these would have been in because it's so much worse for them. I am not sure if I am in a matchup where I want to be doing that. Like it's close. They do rely on artifact mana a lot, but I'm not on the play where I could really get them. I'll put those in the maybe pile. I think it's safe to say that Chalice of the Void on the draw Not great. On the play, you just put it on 0 and you do the same thing Null Rod does. Trinisphere, all their cards cost more than 3 anyway. Unlicensed Hearse, completely irrelevant. Thorn of Amethyst, their cards are creatures that aren't mana sources. I could do this. This is an 8/8 thing. Pithing Needle can name Wasteland in the matchup. I'm trying to think of what else they even play. I don't have any dismembers or anything like that to help me out here. I think I'm gonna do this. Still like mid on these Null Rods. I like them on the play. I'm mediocre. Low on them on the draw, but okay. I don't think I have a better plan. Oh, hell yeah. Look at my hand with all this artifact mana plus Null Rod. You love to see it. This hand is ice cold to Vexing Bauble, a card that my opponent's deck does play. But it's pretty powerful otherwise. I'm going to try it. I might just lose. I'm on the draw. I get a freebie. I get to be on the play on the next one. Lotus Petal. Mana Crypt. Okay, multiple restricted artifact mana pieces. And Anointed Peacekeeper has arrived. That's not the one I was worried about, I'm not going to lie. They named Lodestone Golem. That makes sense. Ancient Tomb. Okay. Mishra's Workshop. Iron Eye Stinker. Okay, so we've got 3, 6, 7, 8 mana now. Lodestone Golem costs 6. If they have Mindbreak Trap, I'm just not beating it, so I'm going to dump out my cards here. I could also go Nettle Cyst, Null Rod, Strip Mine. Oh, maybe that's better. Wow. Okay, hold on. With the Workshop in my grip, I've got options. Okay. Nettle Cyst, Null Rod, Strip Mine. Okay, I have the biggest creature and you have no mana. I think that's a better sequence. I found it, team. And your worthless mana crypt hurts you every other turn, on average. I don't regret the Null Rod in this particular situation. They could just pitch cast a Solitude and be way ahead. Ooh, zap that in. That probably indicates Swords of Plowshares. March of Otherworldly Light, same thing, except I don't gain life. All right, now the race is back on. Another Nettle Cyst, another 3-power creature. I got a lot of stuff I could draw here. I'm going to lead on Ancient Tomb, because they can't cast a spell anyway, and if they have a Wasteland, I'd rather protect the shop. They lost their flip again. I'm still winning, despite all this. Ancient Tomb. That's bad. They're back up to 3 mana, one of it's white. They could introduce the initiative here, but they didn't. And more importantly, they didn't Wasteland me. Oh, right, this costs 6. Shit, I forgot. I got so excited. Never mind. Can't cast my spell. Lodestone Golem, though. Or Wormcoil Engine is now also the same cost as Lodestone Golem. They've lost every grip flipped, which means I'm also winning the race. Oh no, they have a spell. A Peacekeeper! Okay, they can name Lodestone again. I think they have to name Wormcoil on this one. Either way, my next mana source casts the spell. My best draw is just like Nettle Cyst, though. Phyrexian Revoker. Let's go. Go get him. I will name... What do I want to name with this? Mana Crypt, just in case. Back up. I'm probably just going to chump block with this. Though, if I go to... Wow, they're at 3. They've lost every single grip flip. And they shocked this in, and they've tapped Ancient Tomb. Okay, so if I go to 5, Ancient Tomb becomes hard to tap for mana. If I chump block, I'm at more. No, it's fine. If I draw a second Revoker, I would like to be able to double block something. And they might just die in their upkeep. Tapping the Ancient Tomb is kind of free, though, because 3 and 1 are the same life total on this situation, on this board. If they have a March of Otherworldly Light, they might hit their own crypt. Oh, that's bad. Seasoned Dungeoneer. Okay, yeah. They correctly identified that going to 1 is the same as going to 3 here. And they should put lethal on board. Okay. Moment of truth. Patches O'Houlihan. That did live up to the double block, but now they have a extra thing in play. And fingers crossed you lose 7 flips in a row. Let's go. Unlucky, unlucky. Oh, they won a flip. That's so unlucky. And now I'm just dead. GG. This gets protection. I can't interact with it. Okay. Now I'm on the play where things like Vexing Bauble, I think, are better than Null Rod. though they do step on Sphere. I mean, my Null Rod kept me out of that game, but it also made them come down to a crit flip. Bauble versus Rod. Chalice on 0 is just another Bauble. Bauble also hits Solitude, though, assuming I haven't done anything to tax them. Chalice hits them even if they do cost more. And Trinisphere also in this ballpark of things that might mess up their life. I think Sphere is worth it. Mindbreak Trap, a lot worse on the draw. Yeah, I think I'll just pile up these baubles and ways to mess with their early mana. Okay. I like this hand. What does it do? It casts... I have 4 mana on turn 1, which means I can go Stonecoil Serpent for 2 into Sphere of Resistance. And then I have Nettle Cyst waiting. Yeah, I'll keep this. Okay, Ruby, Shop, Stonecoil Serpent, Sphere. Hope that buys me enough time to get the Nettle Cyst in. If they just wasteland me, they're taking 2, and I'm developing Urza Saga, so that's not great for them. I think something that a lot of non-vintage players forget is that Mishra's Workshop only casts artifact spells. I can't equip with it. I can just cast the equipment, but I can't actually use the equip ability until I have 2 real mana. Okay, they're just stripping me. That's fine. That plays. Urza Saga. Play out the Shadow Sphere and attack for 2. And I drew another land, which means I can actually make constructs, which makes this aggro strip mine decision pretty rough. Not that it was wrong. Like, I can't see their hand. Maybe they did the best with what they had, but I am mostly content with how that played out. Okay. If they want to waste me again, we can do this. Urza Saga again. Equip Spear. Yeah, like their life total is going down here. Even if I don't find a mana to use this Urza Saga, the Saga can tutor Soul Ring or Black Lotus and get me casting spells again. If I rip a Workshop or Lotus and cast this Trinisphere, I think it's over. They have been playing kind of from behind, unless they dump out multiple mana rocks right now. There's one. Okay. A new plan has emerged. Wasteland. Okay. I think with this Lotus in play, it is better for me to make constructs than it is to try to take them off mana. They're at 12 now. If they had just gone like Sapphire Pearl pass, maybe I Wasteland, but with Lotus, I think they could cast most of their spells anyway. Seasoned Dungeoneer confirmed. The Lotus is spent now, which means I am more incentivized to Wasteland further activity. This does lock up a basic Plains. Okay, mana for Chrome Mox, which slurped an Archon out of the hand. My constructs will be bigger than this Dungeoneer for now. Patchwork Automaton. Okay. What's in my deck that I would tutor for here? There is Soul Ring or Black Lotus. I'm not getting a Bauble on this board. Those are basically the choices. Okay. The other option is Wasteland them, which I don't think I'm going to do. I'm here to smash. I believe I get Soul Ring here, and then move Shadow Spear onto Construct Token, then I take the initiative. They would need to pitch cast a Solitude here, go down to 1 card in hand, just to not lose the initiative, but then I'm still doing my thing. Next turn. Okay, just hit you. Not that I do much with the first room of the initiative. 0 basic lands in this deck. However, them just not snowballing it is nice. And this thing doesn't have Vigilance, which means all of these creatures are live to attack on the backswing. White Plume Adventurer would untap it if they find one of those. Also at 34 from the Shadow Spear beats incidentally throughout this game. They got a lot of work to do. This is going to have protection. They flipped an Ancient Tomb. They get the initiative back. And they did find a burst of mana off of that exploration. I don't know if that's what they were looking for, but they did just come up with it. Ancient Doom does put them to 2, though, which is conveniently the power and toughness of this Stonecoil Serpent I played on turn 1. They can hardcast Solitude from their position. I believe I'm just going to Wasteland the Ancient Tomb right now and make them show me what they got. I should have done that in my upkeep, actually. Okay, it just died. Sick. Play another Wasteland. And now I'm not worried about Solitude. What am I worried about? I don't know. I'm just going to attack and make them tell me. Here they come. Okay. March killing the biggest construct. They would need 2 more of those through my sphere to stabilize. Yep. Oh, right. They didn't use the Ancient Tomb. My bad. Okay. I get the initiative back, which I can forge, which makes Stonecoil Serpent bigger. It also sets me up to light them up in the trap next time I get the thing. And I can play a Fudge Normous Nettle Cyst right now. That's a nice thing to hold a Shadow Spear in the future. Opponents at 2. They did have the double to survive, double removal spell. They are dead if they don't take the initiative. They are dead to 2 different creatures if they don't take the initiative and stabilize combat. One of my creatures naturally has trample, the other can get it. They have 31 life points to overcome, so they're not going to race me. They do actually have to get control of the game. If they just kill the Phyrexian Germ, I can put Nettle Cyst onto Stonecoil Serpent, and then it's an even bigger solo trample creature. Here come the beats. They explored a Lotus Petal that I expect will go to the graveyard. It did. Can't block. I go to 25 and you get the initiative. You can goad one of my creatures or deal 5 to me. Neither of which I'm super worried about. In White Plume Adventurer would move them forward a room, threaten the Throne of the Dead 3, and untap the Seasoned Dungeoneer. That doesn't do it. That doesn't do anything. I could just pay 4 to equip Shadow Spear. And they can't play Solitude because of Sphere. The chosen card is Nettle Cyst. Okay, I won't equip it. I will equip Shadow Spear to it, and then attack you with a big lethal attack. Okay, sweet. Some fun little combat back and forth, some mutual resource denial. That's actually kind of an interesting matchup in terms of tapping Ancient Tomb and seeing who has better permanents at the end of the day. On to the next round. Welcome to TopDeck.gg, your community's home for everything competitive Magic has to offer. If you're hosting an event, playing for a huge prize, or advertising your events to thousands of players, we've got you covered. Using intuitive pairing software, playing Magic is a breeze. Players just have to sign up online, then scan the QR code in-store. Give competitors the gift of perfect information as their bracket updates in real time. The self-reporting software saves you time and leaves paper match slips in the past. Leave the heavy lifting to TopDeck.gg so your community can relax and focus on playing Magic. I am on the play in round number 3. I can go Shop Bauble Revoker and then kind of curve out. I'll try it. I could also go Patches Bauble. No, that's better. I'm going to go Shop Patches Bauble. And Automaton's not really the essential card here, so even if I get punished by the sequence and they do Force of Will, I still have more replaceable things for that. Okay, first time I've had Vexing Bauble in play without immediately canceling it out with my own Sphere effect, so let's see if this gets paid. Wasteland, but they didn't activate it. I hope they regret that in their life. But clearly they need the mana. Nettle Cyst, Bash for 3. It's a little awkward because I want to Wasteland their Wasteland because clearly they need it, but also they just crack back on Mishra's Workshop that nobody has anything, and maybe that favors me, but I don't really want to find out right now. Yeah, okay. They're just good. They're good. I suspect Vexing Bauble wouldn't be that game. The effect of Bauble, it's much like Chalice of the Void in, like, you may never see the impact it had on a game, but then you also win. Okay, I think I want to bring in Mindbreak Traps. If this... So we saw Wasteland. I don't think they revealed Lurrus. I didn't see it if they did. No, I'm checking the game log. No Lurrus was revealed. Wasteland, no Lurrus makes me think that it's probably some sort of Ancient Tomb mirror. And I'm just going to treat it as such in the blind. Bring in this, like, combat-related stuff and Mindbreak Trap on the draw. Cut all my mana squeezers up that work best on the play. Alright, let's try it. This username looks familiar, like I played against them recently. I don't remember if I played against them in this actual league already, or if it was yesterday, because I also recorded a vintage deck yesterday. It's kind of a responsible little curve. I'll keep it. I'm not going to lose to Wasteland. Okay, mono white confirmed. Is this the same opponent? Can I look this up easily? I'm sure I could find the information in the league somewhere. All right, we're just taking turns not playing the game. That's fun. Welcome to Vintage. Ancient Tomb tapped, pass the turn. And it's extra tough because this Chancellor bubble is still pending. Yeah, I needed them not to follow this up with anything, and they followed it up with the best thing. Okay, so I can just yeet something into the void here. Do I think that constructs or spells are more likely to help me this game? If I want to cast spells, I should play Ancient Tomb. If I want to make constructs, I should make Urza Saga. I'm taking 7 next turn, and then 12 the turn after that. If I tap Ancient Tomb once I lose, yeah, okay, we're good. I'm just going to go to the next game. We could stop. Alternating opponent scooping on their second turn. Now I'm on the play, though. Okay, Vexing Bauble's back. Mindbreak Trap, interesting item. It's more of a desperation object on the draw than it is, like, actually good. But, okay, now I know they're not a Crucible Shops deck. Thorn of Amethyst, their deck is mostly creatures, but the mana to get the creatures, I think I said that just recently, like last round. But it's still true. Not really worried about Pithing Needle here. Maybe Trinisphere is not good enough, and I go 3 Baubles and a Chalice. Okay. Let's try it this way. Oh, baby. This is a lot of permanents. I will keep. This is the other side of the deck. I don't know that I've showcased this mode yet, but this mode is just some giant shit. Good luck. No disruption of any kind. I'm just coming for you. And I think I want to lead on Patchwork Automaton. I'm going to go Mox, Saga, Patches, and then dump out the rest. Patches, protection from Solitude thanks to Ward. Jet, Ring. Opponent's eyes are rolling into the back of their head at this point. Have you ever just seen me play my entire hand, my entire 7-card hand on turn 1? Because that's what's happening. Bang. There they are. 11 power. Go. I could move Nettlecyst onto Patches, and if I think that Power and Toughness is more useful on the Ward body, but I think it's more useful on 2 bodies. I would love if my opponent was just like Ancient Tomb, Archon of Emeria, go. Even Anointed Peacekeeper naming Urza Saga isn't good enough because I have 4 stable mana left over, even after spewing the Lotus. Good match. What the hell? This sucks. On to the next round. Why do people do this? Welcome to TopDeck.gg, your community's home for everything competitive Magic has to offer. If you're hosting an event, playing for a huge prize, or advertising your events to thousands of players, we've got you covered. Using intuitive pairing software, playing Magic is a breeze. Players just have to sign up online, then scan the QR code in-store. Give competitors the gift of perfect information as their bracket updates in real time. The self-reporting software saves you time and leaves paper match slips in the past. Leave the heavy lifting to TopDeck.gg so your community can relax and focus on playing Magic. I looked, by the way, and that was actually the same opponent 2 in a row. I'm sure you all were able to deduce that quickly. You can't play against the same opponent if you're both in the same league, so we probably beat them in round 5, then they immediately queued up a new league, then we beat them in round 1 of their second league. Got a Lurrus deck. I have 8 mana and ways to spend it. Yeah, I'll keep. First Lurrus opponent, first serious opponent in the match. In the league. Oh god. Well, that's bad for me. It got less bad. All right, Mishra's Workshop. I'm going to revoke her. And I think I'm going to name Manifold Key. Just check that box real quick. And I'm not going to play a 1/1 Stonecoil Serpent. You can't make me. Stonecoil Serpent is a monster versus Psychic Frog, which is something they may have. They may also be representing Orcish Bowmaster. I'm going to Wasteland before combat and find out if they have a Bowmaster. Floated blue, moved to combat. Burned it off. I'm going to slam Stonecoil Serpent for 3, rather than trying to revoke another permanent at random. I've already cut off their combo, and now I want to apply pressure. Please daze me. Daze me. Consign to memory. Sad. Okay, that card's really good. Right in the main deck. What a sicko. And they keep hitting land drops. That's hardly fair. Okay. 3-ball. I'm going to slam this first, before they know if I have Wasteland or not. Jeez. All right. I think I'm more worried about black mana, because that represents Orcish Bowmaster, Psychic Frog, and all the tutors in the deck. Cycling Lure Field, keeping those mana up. Double Consigned Memory in the opening keep versus Colorless Shops. What a life. That Trinisphere also would have turned off Vexing Bauble. Would have been a little nice extra. Nettle Cyst. Okay. I'm going to cast this. Just trying to use my mana as well as I can because I don't have a lot of it. And if they do have forces in their hand, if at some point they panic and pop this Bauble to unlock the free spells in their hand, I can dump out. Not that dumping out is that impressive at this juncture. Okay, they are activating their Bauble. That must mean they have a force or they're digging for one. All right. I had a handful of zeros. Surprise. I can name Mishra's Bauble on the second Revoker. That might be a card they have access to. It's a little awkward to name Black Lotus, which is the card I would like to turn off, but it's also a card that I have. Okay. Revoker. I think I'm going to name Mishra's Bauble. And I'm going to hold back the Lotus. No, they might have another Bauble. All right, whatever. Black Lotus. Pass. I've done what I could do. I guess what I could do is name different cards off my Revokers. If I'm just wrong about those, then that is what it is. Mox Sapphire, pass. Didn't get Lurrus with the 3 mana, which means they have something else to do with that 3 mana. Patches O'Houlihan from hand. This makes Nettle Cyst bigger. That's why I'm doing it now. Okay. Force of Will. They decided that is the pressure point. That one is too many. They must have either just drawn that force or they're not worried about Nettle Cyst. Yeah, Bowmaster's actually devastating in combat here. Jesus, that sucks. Okay. Yeah, that kills both Revokers and can chump block. And doesn't even need to chump block because Nettle Cyst isn't that scary anymore. And if they get Lurrus, play Lurrus, they can start Bowmastering out of the graveyard reliably. If they Time Twister right now, I'm probably dead. 1 card in hand. Lurrus added to the hand, 3 cards now. Okay, just gonna keep the pressure up. This is not that scary, but it does make Nettle Cyst larger. Every point of damage probably matters at this point. We know they can play Lurrus next turn. There's no zeros in their graveyard. If they have a mana, they can play Bauble. If they have 2 mana, they can play Bowmaster. I don't think I'm beating Lurrus into Bowmaster right now if they have a sudden burst of mana. Oh, the way they tap this looks like Dig Through Time or Treasure Cruise. Okay, it is Dig Through Time. They decided they need more help than simply casting Lurrus. Lurrus would have to trade off with Foundry Inspector and without casting a spell. Yeah, I would probably dig too. Though this does leave them dead on board if they don't find a way to interact, where Lurrus at least guarantees another draw step. Yeah, they pass without a land or a spell. Mox Jet. It's going to make the squad as big as it can be. Do you have Swords of Plowshares? You do indeed. Okay. You go to 4. And then I'm going to re-equip Nettle Cyst. And hope that we don't just fall apart from here. That Lurrus is scary. If they can stabilize, Lurrus will take it over. That's what Lurrus does. It's just a recall. Nice one. If the 6 unknown cards in their hand right now are just not mana and not interaction, though, and they can't even play Lurrus, that is a game plan. Okay, if they're wasting me instead of playing Lurrus, they clearly have a plan. Seal of Cleansing. Okay, they're willing to go to 1 here. Or no, they could kill the Foundry Inspector. That's better than killing Nettle Cyst. Okay. Please falter, please falter, please falter. They have to seal in response to this, or else I name seal. I'm just hoping that they miss the line and die. They found the line. And they went after the Nettle Cyst. Ooh, I could name Seal of Cleansing, or I could name Mox Sapphire. I'm going to name Mox Sapphire. If it's harder to get Lurrus into play and then also cast a spell, then I might not have to worry about the seal, but them looping seal out of the graveyard is a crazy endgame. Alright, you're at 1. You can't fetch, you can't force. You have 2 mana. Have 6 cards in hand, though. One of them is one of the most broken cards ever made. Okay, there is Lurrus. With no value currently. If they Mishra's Bauble from hand, they're going to draw 2 cards. Or else Lurrus is just going to be chumping. Mox Pearl doesn't change my life. I am just going to attack with both my creatures. I could leave back the Revoker, actually. I could decide what creature they get to kill, or I could just make their life total lower. I think making their life total lower is better. Because they have to block whatever I attack with their... Okay. Holding back Mox Pearl. Now I have secrets I want to keep. They're at 2. 5 cards in hand. Can they answer Phyrexian Revoker? We know the deck has Orcish Bowmaster in it. An unbeatable magic card. Psychic Frog. Shit. Well, another unbeatable magic card. Stonecoil Serpent off the top. Mishra's Workshop. Bummer. Okay, I'm going to play Mox Pearl and pass. I think they've done it. Played Island from hand. Jump the Frog. If they attack with Frog, they do need to answer or block Revoker with the 5 cards they have. I don't think they would make this attack if they just had nothing, because they're completely stable. Just with Frog back there. Yeah, another Frog. That counts. Still interested in Stonecoil Serpent. Patchwork Automaton. I'll cast one of those. Okay, that's in there. I do have 25 life, but they're drawing a lot of cards. Swords to Plowshares, paying the ward. That's good. So just taking score here. My opponent has at least 2 Swords to Plowshares, at least 2 Consigned to Memory, and Seal of Cleansing in their main deck. They are not kidding around about beating shops. And it's still close. Vexing Bauble. Alright, I'm going to go Workshop Bauble. And my plan is to crack the Bauble immediately and try to find a real spell. Wow, pitching Force Negation on that, sure. That's allowed. Still can't get through a Psychic Frog. Ponder, broken. the first truly broken magic card we've seen. Demonic Tutor. Mostly just trying to see what all the tricks are in their toolbox. They are Esper Luris, heavily pre-boarded versus shops. Good to know. Frog jumps again. Keep those cards coming. We know Demonic Tutor in the bank. I might have just gotten something like Force of Will to make sure I can't rip out of this. The Academy. Alright, nah, I'm good. I like Null Rod. I like Shadow Spear. I think Wormcoil's fine. I got Soul Guard Lantern instead of Shadow Spear, but I might like that too. A Hearse I have to activate, and I'm bringing in these Null Rods. I like all of the spheres. Bauble's such a weirdo. It might be insane, it might be a brick. I'm bringing in Null Rods, but they're also a deck with at least 6 forces in it. I'm just going to move cards around and then make a decision later. Okay, Soul Guide Lantern's out. Unlicensed Hearse might stay in. I'm worried about their graveyard when it comes to Luris and Psychic Frog. Unlicensed Hearse does not pressure a Psychic Frog very well. Soul Guide Lantern doesn't matter at all. They showed me Swords to Plowshares, but I have Chalice in. Maybe I don't want Shadow Spear. Shadow Spear punks Bowmaster, though, which otherwise wastes a lot of my time. Maybe I don't need all 3 Null Rods. I don't think I can mess with this very much. Automaton is a bad top deck, but it's a very good opening hand card. Maybe Wormcoil just doesn't matter. It's not really what we're about here. Okay. Or I'm bringing in Shadow Spear, and I'm also bringing in Null Rod. That's a non-bow. Equipment's pretty bad with Null Rod in play. I've heard. Okay, 4 mana. I immediately step on my own tail, and none of these cards are very good in the matchup. I'll mulligan this. The Null Rod didn't even move, but I have Shop to cast at this time, which is a lot better, theoretically. I'm going to keep this and bottom. This is tough. I could get rid of one of the spheres, or I could be heavy sphere gaming. If they wasteland me, I'm just worried about that happening. Okay, I think I'm going to get rid of a sphere. And then I'm going to go Shop Stonecoil for 1. I just want to be on board here. I could have played Patches, but I want the sphere down. If they force my sphere and wasteland me, the game might be over. If they don't force my sphere and wasteland me, the game might still be over. They did force my sphere. It cost them a Consigned to Memory, though. Mox Jet. And they play 5 of those. I don't think I mulligan this hand. Blaze, rip another shot. I hate Magic. I'll probably concede next turn if I don't draw mana. They're living my dream right now, which is locking shops under their own prison pieces, or making shops unable to play the game, because this is a deck that exists on pretty thin and greedy margins. It just is betting that your opponent can't play the game. And if they are playing the game and you're not, LOL. Do you mulligan that, though? Shops experts out there? It had a plan, multiple waves of attack, plus multiple waves of disruption. Just need to fade exactly Wasteland. All right, I'm not beating Urza Saga. GG. On to the final round. We're a few rounds into the video. Thanks for sticking with me. Friendly reminder that if you're still here and having fun, smash that subscribe button. And if you want to play what I'm playing, you can use my affiliate link for TCG Player to support the channel while you shop for cards, and you can try any deck anytime with a cardhoarder.com loan account for Magic Online. All these links are in the video description below. Now back to the league. I'm on the draw in the final round. I am going to keep my hand. My opponent has not revealed Oluris. Moxjet. Seiju, this is Oath. Nobody else does this. Okay, Oath is a little scary because it's a phenomenal deck in general. I am extremely biased and I don't care. And it also just is really good against what we're doing. And this particular list I pulled has no sideboard whatsoever. There's one Grafdigger's Cage, but there's no Karakas, nothing going on here. All right. I think my best plan is to go Jet, Sapphire, Automaton, Sphere. Jet, Sapphire, Automaton, Academy, Sphere, and it's being tapped in response to the Sphere. Change their mind. Okay, Sphere is in. And I will pass the turn. All I can do is apply pressure and hope it works. They pass back without killing me. That's generous. Okay. Urza Saga. Boundary Inspector costs 4 right now. That's too much mana. Boundary Inspector. And I can play a 3/3 Stonecoil Serpent. I guess Stonecoil Serpent bricks Atraxa until they find an answer to that. 3/3, attack for 4. Hope I win. Something's happening. Abrupt Decay, targeting my patches. They don't have to pay the ward because the card's uncounterable. Stonecoil Serpent, tough for them to remove though. They have Boseiju, one other Boseiju in their deck usually. 4 mana in the pool. Oko Thief of Crowns. You can't elk that. Boom. Protection from multicolor. They can elk the Sphere, which puts more damage on my board, but also makes me deal with Oko. I am applying pressure pretty hard, though. It's Mishra's Factory, a little extra, nickel and dime. They're at 16. If they Oath Time Walk here, they're out of it. If they just Oath Pass, I'm still threatening a lot of damage. Oh, Show and Tell. That works too. GG. It was fun playing. Yeah, there's Time Walk, Strip Mine. The other Boseiju clears the Stonecoil Serpent. I'm just going to look at my list and see if I actually have an out to this. I'm pretty sure I don't. Just literally ice cold. And honestly, I think that's mostly fine. I'm going to concede. This is a deck building decision that is reasonable to make. If a matchup is just really bad and 2 or 3 cards wouldn't make it much better, you can just decide to hope to fade it. And Oath is kind of on the low end of its popularity right now. So I'm not criticizing the particular construction of this list, but the fact that I am now here having to play with this list is very bad for me. I have Black Lotus, Mox Sapphire, and Tolarian Academy that could cast Mindbreak Trap in a spot like that game where opponent just 1-for-1'd me until they resolved a Show and Tell. Don't think I want to Null Rod them. I think it's just Cage comes in, Hearse comes out, and that's literally it. Pithing Needle could name Boseiju, I guess, if we care. I'm not convinced I do. All right. I'm just going in like this. It was a good start to the league. Then we hit real decks. Okay, this hand has 1,000,000 mana, lots of squeeze, no pressure. I think this is a mistake, but I am going to keep it. Okay, Shop, Ruby, Bauble. I hope they force this, because then the Sphere will resolve, and I'm about to turn my own Sphere off anyway. Cool. That pitched a Show and Tell. Sphere. Okay, so if I can put my opponent into garbage time, where they are locked under Sphere, I wasteland their land, and then they don't actually play the game, that is a potential way out of this. I'm going to play Wasteland and Sphere. Drawing that Strip Mine helps this plan that I just described, but I do need to attack my opponent's life points at some point. They're fetching right now. 2 mana for Black Lotus, okay. I'm just going to go to my turn. They don't play Gush. There's nothing they can do to juke off of this here. And I think reducing their resources to 0 is more important than getting this Foundry Inspector into play right now. I could do that next turn and hope they're dead, but they did briefly have 2 mana to cast Black Lotus with. 1 land cast Oath at this point. Yep, now I can never play a creature. Great. Urza Saga's my draw? Alright, well, we tried, but this is just how structurally heinous this matchup is. You just cannot do anything. Okay, that's the one thing I could do. And they just have 3 lands again, just right back in. Mana Crypt, I'll cast that. Okay, just passing the turn. We've seen Abrupt Decay in their deck. We know they play Boseiju. Even if I do get to tutor my Grafdigger's Cage, it's not going to matter. They just got to fire off a Vamp Tutor. I hope they get Forbidden Orchard with that, thinking that I'm just chilling. But if they get Boseiju with that, knowing that I'm about to get Grafdigger's Cage, then none of this matters. Alright, well, we've lost. They didn't play a card, which means they got Boseiju, which means that I'm just locked out here, and I'm going to execute the best play that I could make, assuming anything worked, but it's not going to work, so it's fine. Okay, I'll get Grafdigger's Cage, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Foundry Inspector, and then Patchwork Automaton. I still can't cast that. I can cast Mox Sapphire, and I will attack for 9. Might just be able to outmuscle Atraxa. Maybe that's the play. Like, Cage dies, they zoot out an Atraxa, and then I attack with 2 9/9s, they have to block, but then they just get another Atraxa. She has Death Touch for reasons that are impossible to know. Okay, Force of Vigor. That checks the what if they get Boseiju box. Same thing. I guess I have to hope they boarded in Sphinx of Steelwind and just miss, but if they think I have Caracas, that might be something they did. If they have Sarah Emissary, I'm never beating that. Atraxa is the get. And there's Boseiju, Force of Vigor, great cards. Yep, we're good. Unbeatable matchup with that construction, for sure. Positive record with Aggro Shops. We spent 3 rounds making kind of cool decisions and having hilarious non-games versus other Ancient Tomb decks. And then we paired into some blue decks. People who could manipulate their draws and interact with a permanent once it resolved. And then we played against Oath. Holy smokes. I have obviously had a lot of success in the last year with Oath, and part of the reason you select Oath specifically is because you just get to wipe all decks like this off the earth. But I'm not going to spiral out into a conversation about Oath right now. You could play some Caracases. There's a Prison Shops deck that is actually more popular right now than the Aggro Shops build. That plays Golos, that tutors Caracas. Like, you have other ways you could build shops. Aggro Shops, certainly not built to beat Oath. We were very close the first game against Luris Saga, and we did the count when we were playing it, but 2 Plows, 2 Consigns, a Force, a Seal of Cleansing, 2 Wastelands, and it was still like we were 1 attack away from getting them when they stabilized. Maybe that one's fine. I'm also totally willing to believe that I'm not fully acclimated to Vexing Bauble yet. I boarded it out when I was on the draw. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe you're supposed to cut off Force of Wills. It is awkward that Sphere of Resistance turns off Vexing Bauble, and those are just 2 marquee 4 of cards in my deck. So that's probably more complicated than I was fully navigating on this Ice Cold pickup. But we saw the deck work. We saw the deck not work. Showcased everything it can do. Everyone, thanks for watching. This has been Aggro Shops. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, check out the Patreon, and I'll see you next time.